we're back for episode 12.
It's 12 already?
Yeah, no, we're on 12. I know we
Nice.
we had a little couple week hiatus right there. We were very busy, so
Yeah, we just moved. So after 14 years of being in our house, where a lot of these guys grew up here, we sold our house and we just moved into a new house. And the movers took almost a week to move all our stuff out into the new house. So we've been exceedingly busy with work and moving, and just haven't had a chance to do the podcast. So we're trying to catch up now a little bit.
Yeah, when we didn't have any pre-recorded yet, so and same with social media. We haven't put out as much stuff as obviously lately. We're gonna try to get back in the groove of that. But we thought today we would just talk about a little about that life update and just talk about. We talked about it briefly in another podcast episode, but how we got started in social media, like what we do, what our process is, what we're about. So, and just kind of an overview of that. So yeah, like a lot of this stuff, it's been really trying to get everything unpacked and organized, and until recently there's boxes all over the place. So
I didn't shave for about a week because I couldn't find my razor. My wife just found it the other day because they pack stuff away and it's supposed to be labeled, but it gets into the wrong boxes, and so we've got so many boxes everywhere. A lot of our stuff is still missing in action, and stuff that you use every day that you didn't think to pack away is now we have to find where it is. So it's quite the process.
Well, moving's definitely it's a bittersweet thing. It's stressful too. Like there was a ton of memories in the other house, so you kind of have to you're focused on moving, and then right before you would say like the last goodbye to the house. It's weird because you have all those memories, you have pictures and videos, but you think to yourself you're never going to step in that house again, probably. Yeah,
it's very emotional, and it's weird to think that somebody owns it now. We can't just walk in when we want to, because actually we moved 2 houses down. We were fortuitous to find a house on our same street, which how that happened we don't know, but it's weird to see that we can't just walk in the house anymore or walk in the yard because it's not ours,
Yeah.
But life moves on.
And obviously that was a very sentimental house because that was the last house my brother lived in.
Yeah.
But so that'll be another. But time goes on. But yeah, so let's start out with getting started on social media. We don't have to go into. We can kind of do a little more in-depth version, but we can kind of skip over the videos and stuff.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is I get asked a lot. How did you even get into this? And I was operated today, and at the hospital, a couple of nurses, they follow me, and they were asking me how did you even get on social media? Somebody told me you were on social media, and I looked how many followers you have, and they go, wow, I cannot believe you have that many followers. So I think it all just happened kind of fortuitously, I mean, we do patient education videos for my patients, and Kevin's helped me make the videos that we give the patients so they can understand what's going to happen with surgery and how to take care of themselves afterwards, and just common questions that every patient would or should have about their surgery and after surgery. And then that led to an idea. Well, you talking about Julie's video, and then
so there's a kind of couple moving factors in my brain. So I obviously use social media as someone younger. I've used social media. I've seen other people grow accounts in that aspect. But also, I started seeing some medical influencers on some different ones. And I use TikTok a lot. My sister was on TikTok, and she had a video that got Julie did. She had a video on sleep and the lack of sleep and how it affects your brain. Get 4 million views. So I realized the power of TikTok, of how much reach you could get right off the start compared to YouTube or other platforms where it takes time to grow.
And it was very exciting to see her get 4 million views. I mean, it was really, a new experience for her and us.
Yeah.
And all the comments that come in with it was just pretty cool.
Well, no, yeah, it was that was multiple months before, and I had tons of content with him and some other doctors. So something I had thought about before, but I thought, I saw some other things. I was like, there's not really many there's only a couple neurosurgeons on here. And obviously there's a way that patients like the way you understand stuff, because we had a ton of positive patient feedback on that. So doctors and surgeons in general are kind of, usually kind of misunderstood, I feel like. So
well, it's kind of like a mystique to it. It's like people, they hear about neurosurgeons, but when do you ever really meet a neurosurgeon unless you're in the office? And there's a mystique about medicine and the operating room. And so we thought, maybe we could open that up to the general public a little bit about how our lives are,
Yeah, and we kind of figured out quickly what stuff you can put out there and what you can't. You can't put anything about surgery gets like blocked the view
Yeah.
or restricted view.
Or
But-
giving advice. You just can't give out advice.
But I also knew it was something like my dad's not very technologically savvy. Like even pulling up MRIs at his office, a lot of his team helps him with stuff. But I think that's just the age you live in. Like some much older people don't even know how to use phones because they never had to, and you don't want to adapt to it.
Well, when I was in high school, we didn't have computers. We had typewriters, so we learned how to type, and we typed our essays up on a typewriter. So.
But I think the biggest thing about like putting stuff out is just like the fact that you can reach so many people on it. And another big factor was the fact that we had, with their organization, Brian Matters, they had done stuff before. They had talked, they had done all this other stuff, and had the touch of, going and getting a lot of reach on Facebook when they put out articles. But, with the short form video, especially, and just content in general, it's grown so much, the reach you can have. So I really thought we should start and try that out and see that avenue and see where it would take us. I kind of had this feeling that, if we started doing that, we would look back and be very happy we did it in multiple years, versus if we didn't, you never know, but that would be something that you would regret. And I remember even thinking that we were gonna, like, I had wanted to start a podcast with my dad and a couple friends, like in the beginning of 2020, we were doing a book club and other things, and we didn't. And same with when we first started social media. I wanted to start on the other platforms and start the podcast, but it took us some time because we always wanted to start, when we started, we always wanted to start with neurosurgery and everything else, and then slowly introduce all the other things. Some people might think we just kind of randomly start adding things on. That was all something we wanted to do, but you don't want to bombard people, I think, with too many different things at once. So, because there's a lot more than just neurosurgery that makes up you and makes up our family.
And it's, it's fun in one respect, but then it's a lot of work on the other aspect, because, you got to have topics that are interesting and try to keep it different. You can't keep saying the same thing over and over. And it definitely takes work, and we're not as good as we should be. I think some people probably sit down and plan this stuff out in weeks, and they have people helping them. It's just Kevin and I that do it for the most part, and Kevin does all the editing and all the behind the scenes. We don't have some big team helping us. So
yeah, and that's the other thing I think is, like, some people don't understand, especially if some bigger creators, they put a lot more time. This isn't a full-time job for either of us. We really make very minimal amounts of money on it because we get some from like the ad revenue from the views, but we don't do any brand deals. We haven't done any affiliate links, right? Because we don't truly believe in a lot of that stuff, and we're not trying. Like, he's a full-time neurosurgeon, I work in finance, and so it's something we wanted to do because we want in long term where we want to talk about causes meaningful to us, put stuff out that people will enjoy. And again, like he was saying, it is hard to come up with stuff. And sometimes it started feeling like more work to us, where we would take a step back, not trying to, a lot of things will say put out a video every day to grow more. So we weren't trying to optimize growth or anything like that. And maybe that came across some, where we put out content we actually think is good or educational, and trying to find ways that people will watch it, I think.
Yeah, and I think we were trying to, what we've learned is that we started to grow so fast, and we don't know why, but we did. And we learned that we're creating a platform now that we can reach people, and we can talk about things that are meaningful to us, like drinking and driving and alcohol, and talking about people about organ donation, maybe educating people about being an organ donor. And we're going to be working with the American Heart Association about teaching people how to do CPR in their homes, and maybe warning signs of stroke. And there's other stuff down the pike too. So, we really like it because it's you can reach people, you can make an impact on them. The comments that we get a lot of good comments about how we have affected people's lives in meaningful ways. And so that's where it's not a monetary thing for us. It's about, trying to do something good in the world without having to get reimbursed for it,
Yeah. So, well, and I think that's different from some people, which is fair, because some people, if their main job is to be a content creator, like, right, you have to do all the other things. Well, we're not affected by that. So, if we're sometimes, like, we're moving, you want to stay consistent. We wanted to put a podcast out every week, but we weren't going to force ourselves and over, obviously you're a lot more stressed with work
just
and
to
stuff.
do it, yeah.
Just to do it, just to put something out there when that's not, we don't really want to put stuff out there that's not like more so our best effort forward, because then you're just having people follow along, and I don't know, I think people sense that in a way.
Yeah.
But because like we've got some cool stuff, and I think that's our next step of what we're trying to do, is figuring out how to have a more set schedule of working together to come up with ideas and form long-term strategic partnerships with people, like organizations and people and topics we care about. Like you have, we've been working, and you kind of finalized that with the American Heart Association.
Yeah, we have. So I talked to the American Heart Association. So we're going to start hopefully doing some TikToks with them in conjunction. We're kind of working on it right now. So that's going to be a project for the future, just starting. And then we have some other things coming up, a few things that we can't really talk about, but like I've been invited to this is something I can talk about, Healthcare Summit in Nashville coming up next week, and I was asked to be a panelist regarding being a physician and starting social media, and how did it happen, and how can it impact the future of medicine. So it's pretty neat to be picked. You know, they only have 3 panelists for this particular topic, and I was one of the ones in the country picked, so it'll be interesting.
Well, no, that'll be cool too, to see some other people there like that. And that's the next step of like being more serious about it as we grow into the next level of meeting other people that are doing stuff like that. Because when you're just in our hometown, like there's not really many other in Toledo. I don't even know really any other there's no other surgeons I know of. Maybe the plastic surgeon, but a lot of plastic surgeons already like they put stuff on their practice page, but that's because it increases patient flow. I don't think anyone really in Toledo, because it seems like there's a ton of people creating stuff, but if you're in certain areas, especially in like a field of medicine, I don't think there is not a ton of people to connect with right away.
Well, and I think a lot of people too look at social media, it's just like TikTok. I think, you know, maybe some people just look at it as a platform where people do just fun things for entertainment, for society and things like that, but not a lot of meaningful stuff. And I think maybe a lot of doctors don't get on it because of that reason. They don't want to look not insignificant, but like look superficial.
It may take away from a little bit of their candor of looking professional.
Yeah, and but I you know, we've taken the chance, and you got to put yourself out there to make a difference, and it's not easy always doing these things and putting yourself out to the world occasionally when it goes viral. But if you're going to change things for the better, somebody's got to put themselves out there. So that's what we've been trying to do. We kind of force ourselves to do it a little bit, and we're definitely getting some notoriety, and people are noticing it, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think, you put yourself out there, and sometimes you force yourself a little bit, but sometimes it just comes easy. Like there are some things we've talked about where and that's like, I like the podcast a lot when we're doing stuff, and I'm excited to see that grow long term, of where we're working on here soon to, once we get a little settled in more, but start getting guests on podcasts. Mm-hmm. We know a lot of people. Yeah. And then also just through the online world, since we have some following, we're going to hopefully be more able to connect with some people. Mm-hmm. But I think will be eventually the coolest thing, is being able to connect with like-minded people and work together with people and organizations to try to make changes that are meaningful to you. Because that's all how anything happens, is people.
And we've got some pretty good ideas for guests that I've already talked to that we're going to line up, that just people you probably wouldn't meet every day, you know, that you can sit down with us for 45 minutes an hour, and we can pick their brain and see what their life is like, and just kind of look into the lives of some people that do some pretty cool things, you know.
Yeah. And if you guys have any podcast like guests you would want us to try to get or think would be good, let us know. Constantly looking at that stuff. Yeah. And another thing I talk with him about a lot is, you see on social media a lot, you know, once your followers grow over time, there's a lot of, I'll talk to him about this a lot. It sometimes feels weird to make content again, or make it even just changing a little bit. But, you know, when you have a lot of new followers or different people watching or listening to your stuff, a lot of people might not have seen original stuff. So sometimes that stuff, you know, we have to try to do too, and seeing which things work or not, or just a new way to present different stuff. But yeah, that is something we struggle with sometimes, is content, because, you know, we can just say, oh, we've made a video on this before, go check that one out, or different things. So,
but we're growing, you know. I mean, we've got like 450,000 followers on TikTok. I think we're up to like 360,000 on Facebook, 165 I think on Instagram, and then we're almost, I think we hit 60,000 followers on YouTube today, actually. So so it's slowly growing, and that's only been a year and a half we've been doing it. So I think if we just stay consistent, I think we're going to keep going with it.
No, and I think too, what is as you get a little bigger, you're not like, we've never been forced to do anything we don't want to do.
Right.
So we just get to do things that we decide to do or what people want us to do. And that's why we constantly ask about different things, because we don't really want to make stuff that no one cares to watch or listen about. And I think there's a lot of other things that over the years you just get to see our family dynamic. Obviously, me and my dad have a pretty good relationship. And just the different things we do in life. Like I did an Ironman last month. We did a family K actually the other weekend too. We just ended up all walking together because everyone wanted to run.
And most people in the race actually walked in.
It was a cool little event. But I think just doing things like that, even it was Archer, my nephew's first 5K technically. Yeah. He was pushing the stroller. He slept during half of it too, like a true king.
And then he had his first Halloween, and he was dressed up as Scooby-Doo. And then we had a snowstorm, a little bit of a snowstorm during Halloween here, so we didn't end up really going out trick-or-treating much. But a lot of stuff to come down the years.
But yeah, you get to see a lot of stuff just as a kind of a family doing stuff, and just each of us as we do individual things. I know there's some things me and him want to do, some challenge wise. But yeah, there's lots of things in the pipeline, and we thank you. We want to thank everyone for always watching and listening, and all the positive feedback you get, because there's the people who are loud and negative, or who are negative on social media, are usually just very loud, but there's so much positive feedback all the time. There'll be people make joke comments and stuff, but when we post some of your stuff, there's lots of people saying, like, thanking not just you, but doctors in general, because, you know, some people think doctors just make more money or whatnot, but there's always a balance of, like, reward and how much you work and other stuff you have to do, because it's not easy.
I also think, like, the negative comments, like, we've had our fair share of negative comments, and you know, that can shut you down right away. It just takes one bad negative comment to make you think, like, second guess yourself, like, why am I saying this stuff? Why am I even on social media? But so that's where you got, for anybody out there listening who is on social media and you get negative comments, you can't let it destroy you. You have to just ignore it, because those people are just looking for something to say. And, you know, if you think what you have to say is meaningful, you should do it. And I know Julie, my daughter in London right now, she put out a TikTok for New Scientist magazine the other day and got a rude comment, and she was very upset about it. But I think she's learning that you can't, these people, honestly, a lot of these people just have nothing better to do but sit around and criticize you. Maybe that's what makes them happy, but you as the creator, you know, you have to be confident and just, if you got a message to tell, you should tell it and not worry what people you know, say about it. And if you get good comments, that's wonderful, obviously, but you have to let the bad comments go. I've learned that, because it'll tear you down.
Well, yeah, no, she was annoyed, but she's texting our family group chat. But also, there were some people who had followed her that were defending her in the comments too, because someone was commenting on her appearance as if that negates her intelligence. Which you always see too. It's almost always people who have never put themselves out there in any fashion are the ones who are criticizing. So, you know, the classic quote by Theodore Roosevelt of, like, the man in the arena. It's very easy when you're not the person in the arena actually doing things to say how someone's doing things wrong. But I think the important thing is to do things in life, to be confident enough and put yourself out there. Because, I mean, great things can come. You might be scared to death. Someone maybe starting social media or standing up for a cause. You might be very scared at first, but you'll almost always look back. You either realize that wasn't the right fit, or, you know, a lot of growth will come for it, whether it's a huge success or just teaches you not to be scared of failure.
And what I think's been really neat is, like, when I'm in the office, I'll have people of all ages. It can be young or old, and they'll come in and say, "Oh, we follow your podcast every Saturday morning." And, you know, it's funny, like, maybe some of the people who are a little bit older in life, they use Facebook, and they'll say, "Yeah, we follow you on Facebook or YouTube." And then some of the younger people that I see in the office will come in and say, "Yeah, I follow you on TikTok." But it's a generational thing. I mean, there's people of all ages who've been watching us. I mean, it's funny, you know, somebody's 80 years old and they come and say, "Oh yeah, I follow you on Facebook." And it's kind of cool that they're out there, you know, working on social media and following us.
No, definitely. And I think some of my friends will watch the podcast or listen to it. And that's why he was wondering why we hadn't had a 12th episode yet. We had missed a couple weeks. So I was telling him why. And we let the ball slip a little bit, but we're going to try to get back to being consistent on that and with social media. But yeah, it's awesome to talk to people who have seen this stuff or lot of people have seen my dad's stuff, and and I talk because we do a lot of stuff together, and especially the podcast, talking about the ideas or other things with people. There's even some on a podcast we were talking about. They were practicing, or when they would train to climb, they would listen to the podcast, which I thought was really cool, because that's the whole point, is motivating each other and trying to be a positive force in the world, to other people, and allowing other people to be a positive force to you. I love seeing other people's stuff on social media, and just friends and family. It motivates you to do more. And I mean, I think that's how the world becomes a better place. It's just lots of positivity being put out, and back and forth.
Well, it's crazy too. Like, you put some of these videos and get the comments on them, and how many positive comments you get back that, talk about how, just complimenting us for doing this. And then a lot of people have their own pearls. Like, they may have a different take on what you're talking about. And I mean, you learn stuff through other people. So it's a great experience. Yeah,
I love podcasts, because I started listening to podcasts. They're a lot bigger now, but they weren't super early. I started listening like 2018. I'd listen to audiobooks and podcasts a lot. I've learned so much from podcasts, because you can see these huge names you wouldn't see before. These world experts on like a Tim Ferriss show, or Joe Rogan, or now Dr. Huberman's a huge podcast for the last couple of years, and so many other podcasts.
Dr. Huberman
he's a neuroscientist.
Okay.
But he does mostly solo. He has.
I heard somebody mention his name the other day when I was at the hospital.
Well, he's had like the fastest growing podcast for the last 2 years, and now he's got like millions of people that listen. But he gives like science-backed stuff. He reads all the research paper, puts it in a very easily form to like people to understand it. So, but I think that's crazy, because in the past you never could like hear from these like high level people in different fields, or watch them. And now with podcasts and these big podcasters, they make things like that accessible. Or Huberman makes he breaks it down. That might, for every hour he records, it might be 10 to 20 hours of research.
Yeah.
So, and same with just like reading a book. Like, books are so powerful, because for $20 you can get someone who's been in the industry for maybe 30 years of life or more, condensed down into one book for $20, and you can get their insights and their failures and successes. I mean, podcasts are like that in a way too, and audiobooks, where you can just listen to it while you're doing other things, like while driving, while running, or so many different things. And so I think I think a huge thing in life is not about any one necessary thing, but anything field you're going into, or something you want to do, other people have done it before, or they've tried to do before. You can listen to them, watch them, read their thoughts. It's always going to help you. And everyone, no matter what thing you're going for, because we all have different objectives in life and things we want to do. But those are, I think that the biggest thing is, and a lot of times after like high school or college or different, whatever level of school you stop at, so many people they kind of put learning to the side after that, because learning was associated with something you had to do. But once you can kind of reverse that and just be a lifelong learner, I think it applies to so many areas of your life, and it just makes life more vibrant overall, compared to if thinking you have to do stuff, which was associated with school.
Yeah. And podcasts are pretty cool. Like, sometimes instead of listening to music, I just turn on a podcast in the car, because if you're driving 20 minutes, you do 20 minutes to work and 20 minutes back. That's 40 minutes of something that you find interesting or can learn something about. I know you do that all the time. Like, every second of the day, Kevin's got a podcast on.
Not every second.
Well, pretty close.
But no, I listen. That's not true. I listen to music, and because I think of it sometimes, like, I listen to music when I'm like, say I'm doing like a really hard run or a lift or something. Sometimes I'll put music on, but a lot of times like audiobooks or podcasts or other things, it's just time that you could be like, even just like washing the dishes sometimes or something like that, or driving. If you're always just like listening to music or thinking about other things, you could be putting like these ideas in your head, like positive ideas or different things like that, or learning stuff. I don't know. It's just a use of your time. So even if you don't do it all the time.
A couple times I've tried to do it in the operating room. Nobody really wants to listen to podcasts, because people like to listen to music. But that's a whole topic in itself. I mean, picking out music in the operating room, because, as a surgeon, they'll always ask you, what do you want to listen to? But then you feel bad, you can't pick the music out all the time. So I usually just ask the nurses whatever they want to listen to, they'll turn it on. Sometimes they'll turn on stuff that I like, and sometimes they don't, and I won't say anything. But It's funny when I tried to put a podcast on here, there you could tell that people were not interested, and they, you can just sense it. You can just sense the vibe in the room. So I turned it off. We turned the music back on, but it's interesting how the culture is in an operating room and how decisions are made. And you don't want to always be arrogant and say, because some surgeons will only play what they want to hear and that's it. There's no discussion. I try not to be like that, but there are certain things. I mean, sometimes somebody will turn a rap on. I'll say, "Can you just turn that off? I don't want to hear a rap," or, But
everyone has their own music taste, so obviously.
Yeah, everybody has their own music taste. So we just take turns. We take turns about who listens to what, and it works out pretty well.
But I think that's just a good point in general. I don't think it's just the operating room, but in general, like it's so easy. Like you can be listening to like say you're in a car with friends, like on a road trip. It's just normal. I mean, you have music on the entire time, but if you put a podcast or like audiobook or something on, it is a lot.
Kills the vibe.
No, it kills the vibe. Or like you might feel awkward, or someone else might be like, "What the heck?" But also, it's hard. I think that'll eventually change more and more, depending on different types of people you're with, and just as it becomes more and more mainstream, which it constantly is. But I think there's just also it depends. You sometimes have to, like if I'm with my girlfriend and we're on a longer road trip, we'll try to pick a podcast we both want to listen to, and we'll switch back and forth because obviously there's a difference in what certain people want to listen to.
And there's like we had been part of what was it called?
What?
The podcast that we went to LA to that conference and
that's Mind
Valley. But we had joined Mind Valley for a year or two. But they have things that you can listen to in your car. So So each person, they pick an expert on a topic. It could be health, and they find a leading person in the world who is leading authority on health or meditation or all kind of different things. And it's interesting to listen to them. And you can learn a lot. I learned a lot through that. It's something you can just pop in whenever you want. And for an hour, you can really absorb. They condense it down into a really tight lesson about that person's expertise. Yeah,
so Mind Valley, we used to do that, and then we went to one of their live events. It's like an online education and community platform thing. Yeah. So in a way too, it's just like if you think about masterclass is like a bigger version in a way, but they'll take like top experts or people, top like experts in the field, and they have them create concise classes or episodes you can watch and listen to. So I think there's.
Remember the guy, Jim Quick?
Yeah.
And he teaches you how to increase your memory. And it was really, I would do it in the operating room. All the little tasks that he would give us, I would teach people in the operating room. So we could have a list of like 20 things and people could just, within 5 minutes, list all those things off, 20 in a row. And there's a method to their madness. So you just have to do it. But it was really cool.
Well, the biggest thing of memory is like of how we've evolved, like
tacking a picture with it
through evolution is putting it in a place. Like we could always remember places very well because you had to remember like where your village was, where the stream was, and stuff like that. So the basis behind that is like to have think of like a house or a really well-known area and put different things that you need to remember in that area, because then you can walk around in like your mental landscape to those things. So Jim Quick, and he's super big on social media. He's got like 1 million Instagram
or like
followers.
A shopping list. It was cool how you have a shopping list, and then you work the shopping list from your head down to your toe, and then you just think about, okay, I put the bananas was my nose and the apples were my eye or whatever. And then as you're going around the store, you're going to remember, okay, think about your nose. Well, that was the bananas. And that's how you think of your list as you go through the store. And it's really cool. It works.
Yeah. Well, no, it's cool because it works and it's concise and it's from someone. I think the important thing is like once you're finding different people on different things. And I think that's what's crazy about big podcasts. If Dr. Andrew Huberman has someone on, it's going to be someone legit. He's not going to have somebody who's just saying random stuff that they found on Google.
Right.
And I think that's a huge thing as there's so much information available now. It used to be there wasn't the information available before the internet. Now there's almost too much information available. And the next step is the curation of information. And that's why companies and communities like that work is, it's getting good information. Just like why patients want to hear from you about their surgery versus just Googling it, because there's tons of information available online and everywhere else. But the other part is then knowing which information is true. We hear fake news all the time and fake information. So that's another huge aspect of all these things is good quality information.
And you have to be very careful. Just to my field, just to give you a bit of advice, when some patients come in and they start telling me about what I'm going to do at surgery, And I said, well, that's not exactly the way that I do it. And so they have this misinterpretation of how I'm going to perform their surgery or what I'm going to do with surgery or what they're going to have done. And I said, where'd you hear that? And they'll say, well, I went online and I Googled it. So you got to be careful. Like if you're going to have surgery, make sure you talk to your surgeon personally and know what he or she is going to do, and not Google it so much, because there's so much misinformation out there about what can and cannot be done with surgery. And then every surgeon is different, right? I do surgery maybe a little bit different than the next guy. So you got to be careful about what you absorb off of the internet when it comes to medicine, especially for surgery. So I always warn my patients a little bit about that just kind of, that's why I made my patient education videos, so they know what I'm doing, right? They know what I'm going to do exactly in their surgery, because it's me talking to them in the video, explaining to them what I'm going to do at surgery and what to expect, and not somebody that they don't know off the internet who is not doing their surgery,
Yeah. Another aspect of that is that medicine's so personalized, and a lot of stuff that's put online is more generalized. Like if you learn about math online, there's only one correct answer. In medicine, each person's unique, so there's never going to be perfect information on the internet. Yeah. And that's for several different fields, but that's where you have to learn where some things are great, to get generalized information or information that's pretty universal. But in other fields like medicine or something else with unique cases for each person, it's not that useful to do that. But yeah, so I mean, we kind of went off a little tangent there, but yeah, so there's a lot more to come. We're gonna try, now we're moved, try to keep being more consistent, keep improving on the quality of our content, and doing stuff. We always love to hear you guys' feedback and trying to do stuff you guys care about.
Because it would be really helpful. Like it'd be nice to hear what people would want in a podcast. And you can't try not to narrow it down to one specific question. Like we were looking for topics that people in general, general topics that people would be interested in.
It can't be like super specific.
It can't be like
specific
I have
condition
this,
for you.
Yeah.
Just like we were saying there, we can't answer that. He definitely can't, because it can't be medical advice. But just overall, just demystifying different aspects and things that we can talk about that you guys would find valuable. And yeah, we're gonna pretty soon here start having some guests on here. That was the goal, to get several episodes under our belts, because we're learning podcasting as we go, and we're pretty transparent with social media and all the other stuff of just as we do stuff, you can see us learn as we try to improve the stuff we do. So. It's
interesting too, because a lot of people I've asked so far, I mean, they have to check with their companies and who they're employed by to see if it's okay if they come on a podcast. It's amazing how regulated we are in this country as far as what we can do, to some extent, I think.
Yeah, no, especially if you work for someone that you can put topics out there, because they don't want it to necessarily reflect that. Well, because they don't know what you're going to say and whatnot. Yeah, so yeah, but.
So we're going to probably spend the weekend unloading boxes again.
But yeah, I'm going to go for a run, I think. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for watching, listening, and we thanks for following along on the journey thus far, and hopefully
definitely things are changing. There's a lot of stuff coming up in the future that we're getting involved with, that people have asked us to get involved with, and that'll all unfold over the ensuing 6 months to a year, I think. So some pretty exciting stuff.
As we can tell you guys, we'll keep you updated on anything new. But all right. Have a nice day.
Yep.